Okay, hopefully you guys were able to do quite a bit of your study guide. So I want to go over this with you so that you have the correct answers and you can study this weekend. So we will review again on Monday and then your test will be on Tuesday, but please make sure these study guides go home tonight. So on the first one, the directions say determine which of the following are solutions to the inequality. Select all that apply. So we know if it's a determining problem, right, it's going to be a yes or no. So we're going to need to plug numbers in to try. So the first one, it says x is 3. So we have 9 x squared is greater than 81, and it says to plug in a 3. So remember, if our coefficient and our variable are touching, means multiply. So 9 times 3 squared is greater than 81. Exponents have to come first. 3 squared means 3 times 3, which is 9. 9 times 9 is greater than 81. And 9 times 9 is 81 is greater than 81. No. Okay, the next one, we're going to plug in a 3.5. So we're going to go 9 times 3.5 squared is greater than 81. We're going to go 3.5 squared. I'm going to go over here. 3.5 times 3.5. 5 times 5 is 25. 15, 16, 17. Put a 0 placeholder. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 3 is 9. Plus 1 is 10. Sorry, we're running out of room. So we add those and we get 5. 7 plus 5 is 12. Carry our 1. Okay, and we got 2 decimals. So 12.25. So we have 9 times 12.25 is greater than 81. So we're going to go 12.25 times by 9. 9 times 5 is 45. 9 times 2 is 18, plus 4 more is 22. 9 times 2 is 18, plus 2 more is 20. 9, 10, 11. Okay, and then we have 2 decimal places. So when we do this, right, we have 110.25 is greater than 81. Yes. Now, when we think about this, if 3.5, when we plugged that in, was greater than 81, is 4 going to work? And yes. Now, if we try it to prove, right, so we have 9 times, right, in this case, we're saying it's 4 squared is greater than 81. 4 squared is 4 times 4, which is 16 times 9. So we do 16 times 9. 9 times 6 is 54. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So is 144 greater than 81? Yes. Okay, so we knew 4 would work, but then we have the work to prove it. Okay. So on your test, right, make sure you plug in each one of them. And then if, right, when you plug it in, if it's a yes, it works. If not, no. So go ahead and pause this if anybody needs to copy down any work to take home to study. Okay, if everybody is ready, I'm going to go ahead and clear it. Okay, let's look at number 2. So on number 2, okay, we have 8p plus 5.5 is less than or equal to 45.5. And in this case, it says we're going to plug in a 4. So 8 times 4 plus 5.5 is less than or equal to 45.5. 8 times 4 is 32 plus 5.5 is greater than or equal to 45.5. Okay, and 32 plus 5, well, that's 37.5 is less than or equal to 45.5. Yes, that is true. So 4 will work. We're going to do the same thing, but this time we're going to plug in a 5. So 8 times 5 plus 5.5 is greater than or equal to 45.5. 8 times 5 is 40, plus 5.5 is greater than or equal to 45.5. Well, 40 plus 5 more is 45.5 is less than or equal to 45.5. And that has to work. Now, when we plugged in a 5, it barely worked, right? It was equal to. So if I plug in a 6, I definitely know I'm going to go over, right? Because 8 times 6 is 48 right there. Is not going to be less than 45.5. So 4 and 5 are our answers. Okay, let's go on to number 3. So number 3 should be pretty simple, right? Just some things to remember is remember if we have a greater than or equal to or a less than or equal to, that gets us a closed, sorry, that's as good as I can get on a closed circle. If we have greater than or less than, right, that gives us an open circle. So the first thing I need to look at is my number. It's at -2. And if I look at A, B, C, and D, all the dots are at -2. So we're okay there. The next thing we need to look at is open or closed. And in this case, it's an equal to. So it's a closed circle. So it can't be A and it can't be C. Now I look at this and I say, oh, I want numbers, right? X stands for numbers greater than or equal to -2. So it needs to go to the right. Or, again, I can think if it eats the variable, it goes to the right. Well, that tells me right there, then it has to be D. Okay, number 4. Okay, so our same thing. We're looking for our number. In this case, we want it at 7, and A, B, C, and D all have a dot at 7. Now, in this case, there's no line, so I want an open circle. So it can't be C, can't be D, because those are closed circles. And I read from the side with the variable, so I want numbers that are greater than 7. Or, again, I tell myself, is it eating the variable? Yes. So it goes to the right. So in this case, the answer has to be B. Okay, number 5. Okay, so the directions on this tell you to solve and graph the inequality. So just like solving, right, you can put the line down the inequality sign. You don't have to, but we start on the side with the variable. We look and say, oh, it's adding 14. So the inverse or the opposite is subtracting 14. Sorry, sometimes it doesn't write very well. Subtract 14. Okay, I have to borrow 12 minus 4 is 8. 8 minus 1 is 7. Now, remember, if you only keep 78 on your test, you're going to miss it. Okay, you have to remember in your answer to bring down the inequality sign and to bring down the variable. So my answer is X is greater than or equal to 78. Now I graph that. So over here, right close to 80, I'm going to put a closed. Again, that's as good as I can get for closed circle. We want numbers greater than or equal to 78. So it's eating the variable. So we go to the right. Hey, if you need, you can pause if anybody needs to write this down. And go ahead and press play when everybody's ready to move on to number 6. Okay, let's go to number 6. I'm trying a different pen. We'll see if it writes better on the screen. Okay, here we go. So we're solving again. In this case, I look and say what's happening to X. It's being multiplied. So the inverse of multiplying is dividing. So I want to divide by 8. I come over here and divide by 8. 96 divided by 8 is 12. Bring down my sign and my variable. So my answer is X is less than 12. Okay, I go up here and at 12, I'm going to put an open circle. I look up and I want numbers less than 12. So less than is going to the left. I also can check it's not eating the variable. So when it doesn't eat the variable, I go to the left. Sorry, sometimes it works good and sometimes it doesn't. Okay, go ahead and get that wrote down. And we will move on to number 7. Okay, we went to number 8. Sorry, number 7. Okay, so drawing our line. Starting on the side with the variable, it's subtracting 3.6, so I need to add 3.6. I do the same thing to the other side, add. So funny, it will not. Right there. I'm going to come down here. Add 3.6. Sorry, that looks terrible. Here we go. 8 plus. Well, there you go. That's as good as we get. 8 plus 6 is 14. Carry a 1. 8 plus 3 is 11. Plus 1 more is 12. Decimal comes straight down. So 12.4. I bring down my sign and my variable. So my answer is 12.4 greater than y. And there's that decimal. Okay, so I go to my number line and I go 12 and it's almost 12 and a half. Okay, and it's an open circle right there. And I want numbers. If I start reading from the variable, it says y is less than. So I want numbers that are less than 12.4. And it's not eating the variable, so I know it has to go to the left. Okay, again, pause if you need. And then we will continue on to number 8. Okay, number 8 is another solving an inequality. In this case, it's a division, so the opposite of dividing is timesing by 8. Okay, so I come over here and I times by 8. 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 2 is 16, plus 4 is 20. 8 plus 2 more is 10. 1 decimal place. So I have 100 is greater than or equal to r. So I go to 100 and it's a closed circle because it's equal to. And I want numbers. I'm looking right here, numbers that are less than r, or it's not eating the variable, so it has to go to the left. Okay, pause if you need to copy that down. And then we'll move on to number 9. Okay, number 9 and number 10 on here. Okay, it says write an inequality for the following statements. Now, one thing, right, we talked about is looking for the word is. That helps us to know that what's after the is a inequality sign. And this first one, there's no is, but we do have our inequality word, right? And our inequality word is exceeds. So if it says exceeds 27, so I remember exceed, like exceeding the speed limit means to go over. So that's a greater than, and it's greater than 27. And quotient means divide, and we're dividing G and 9. Okay, look at the next one. 12 less than a number is at least 52. So I have is. My inequality word is at least. So remember I told you to replace at with, like I said, the least, right? If we think of at least, the least it can be is 52. So that means it's got to be greater than or equal to 52 because it's got to be at least that. And on this side, we have 12 less than number. Less than means subtract, and it's a flipper. So my number comes first, and then my 12. Okay. All right, moving on to number 11. It says the distance Hunter drove was no more than 65 miles. So I'm going to use D for distance because that's what we're talking about, but you could use an X, any variable really. Our number is 65 and our keyword is no more than. So if I can't go any more than that, then I must have gone less than or equal to that. And number 12, Garrett needs to read a minimum of 36 pages to finish his reading assignment. So I'm going to put a P because we're talking about pages. My number is 36, and it says he needs to read a minimum, right? Minimum, remember, is like the least that he can read. So we're okay if he reads more than, but he must be at least, right? A minimum of 36, so greater than or equal to 36. Okay, moving on to number 13. Olivia needs to save more than $75 to buy her a new outfit. I'm going to use D for dollars, but again, you can use any variable. 75, and it says more than, right? So not equal to, just more than. So D is greater than 75. Okay, we're almost there. Number 14 asks us to write and solve. So Carson charges $3 for every, that keyword of for each, for every, we know what that means, cupcake she sells, if she has made more than 372. So I know my inequality symbol is a more than, greater than, right? 372 in cupcake sales this month. Write and solve inequalities, show how many cupcakes she has sold. So it says $3 for every cupcake. And we know every means times. So 3 for every cupcake gets her more than 372. Now we solve that, right? We draw our line, we divide by 3. So we take 372 and we divide it by 3. 3 goes into 3 once. Bring down my 7. 3 goes into 7 2 times. Which is 6. Subtract 1. Bring down my 2. 3 goes into 12 4 times. So she sold. Now, here's where some of you are going to make a mistake. Some of you are just going to put 124. And that's not true, right? If she only sold 124, she just made 372. It says she makes more than. So make sure when you solve this, right? Let me get my eraser. When you solve this, right, you have to write everything. So my 124 really should be brought down, my sign, and my inequality. So if you didn't do that, if you just wrote 124 in your red pen, will you put the C is greater than, right? And make sure that is something that students miss every time on this test each year. Make sure when you write your solution has the whole thing, not just the number. Okay, moving on to number 15. Jane started with 48 lollipops and bought some more. She now has less than 72. There's my inequality. Less than 72. Write and solve inequality to show how many more lollipops Jane bought. So, right, she started with 48 and she bought some more. I'm just going to use X for the more that she bought. Now, I added these two because what she started with and what she bought, I got to add them and make sure it's less than 72, just like it says. So that's your inequality. Now, if you did this, X plus 48 is less than 72, that's okay as well. Okay, now we go to solve it. So I'm going to rewrite 48 plus X is less than 72. I subtract 48. Subtract 48. Okay, I borrow. 12 minus 8 is 4. 6 minus 4 is 2. Bring down my sign. Bring down my variable. So X is less than 24. Again, make sure you have the whole thing. If you only wrote 24, you would miss out on your test. So make sure you get the whole inequality wrote down. Okay, and to number 16, Naya and 4 friends. Be careful, right? This is something that I would make sure. Naya and 4 friends is how many people? It's 5. Anytime I see something like that, I always write right above it how many it is. Okay, went to the trampoline park. The split, that should say they split. The cost equally. Each girl paid at most 9. So at most, remember we say that means the most they paid. Okay, so the most they paid is 9. So they didn't pay any more than 9. They had to pay less than or equal to 9. Right, and solve an inequality to show how much the total cost was. Now remember, do we split friends or do we split a cost? And hopefully you are saying right now, we split a cost. We don't split our friends up. Okay, so the cost split between the 5 people is less than or equal to 9. That's your inequality. Now I solve it, right? Instead of dividing by 5, I times by 5. So I times by 5. 9 times 5 is 45. Bring down my sign and my variable. So the cost of the trampoline park had to be less than or equal to $45 so that each girl paid 9 or less. Okay, I believe that is your last one. So again, if you will make sure that you take this home, you don't need to bring it back Monday. Monday we will review. You need to bring it back Tuesday. And if you bring it back with a parent signature on Tuesday, we'll figure out how many points it's worth. So make sure if there's any of these that you had to put a question mark by or that were hard for you, right, that you do something about it this weekend, right? Watch some videos, go to that study guide that's posted at the beginning of the inequalities unit, and do some work so that we can meet our goal of 80% of students get 80% or better.